Hebrews, Hebrews, Hebrews. This is Israel Wake Up. It's our Women's Advanced Bible Study night, the 9th of October, 2025. Okay. Our topic for discussion will be for the night will be the hidden race before Adam. We're going to go into that and break that down and get the meat out of it. Okay. You can go to our YouTube channel, Israel Wake Up. Check out our videos. We have over 100 or so videos that you can look at. Check them out. Get the meat out. All right. Throw away the bones. Okay. We here every Thursday night from 7 to 9 Central Time. So you're an Israelite woman and you want to get more knowledgeable on the scriptures and get the truth of the Holy Scriptures, then you can join in. You can listen in through YouTube, or you can make yourself known, and we'll give you our link so you can come in and engage in the class. Okay. For those that don't know, this is a non-Messianic channel. We deal with Tanakh and the Torah. Tanakh being the Old Testament, so-called Book of Remembrance, and the Torah is the first 5 books of the Old Testament that was given to Moses by our Savior, our Redeemer, our Deliverer, the Lord of Hosts. Okay, this channel was created to aid and assist all Hebrews who are waking up in these last days to their true identity and understanding who their Savior and their Redeemer truly is. Shalom and welcome to this channel, and welcome to our Women's Advanced Bible Study. Okay, we're going to do our normal, which is a moment of silence, prayer, psalms. We have our Women's Health moment with Michelle. We do our current events, need to know information. Then we open it up for anybody with questions, comments, any dialogue or testimony. And then we go. We go into our topic for discussion, which is America was denied citizenship by Burkina Faso, and we're going to go into the reasons why a lot of people were saying that was that situation didn't take place. We're going to go into that, play the video, we'll get feedback on it. Okay, and our script we'll be dealing with for our scripture reading we'll be dealing with the hidden race that was before Adam. Okay, we're going to go into that and rightly divide it. Okay, then we'll pick a scripture like we normally do, break the scripture down, and then we'll close out. Okay, this moment of silence is for the Lord of Hosts. All that He's doing to bring about our prophesied deliverance in these last days. Okay, oh Lord, we come before Thee, and we're thankful for the knowledge and understand that You have given us up to this point. And we seek Thy face, that You shower us with peace and enlightenment and a sense of togetherness. Oh, we see Thy hand in the affairs of the world, and we know and understand that what You have spoken in the past will surely come to pass. Turn not Thy face from us, but hearken unto our plea. Hearken, O Lord, and do, for we need You so very much at this hour. All praises unto You. Okay, I'm gonna read a song very quick. Okay. Okay, I'll read Psalms 35. It's a prayer for the rescue from enemies. It's a psalm of David. Plead my cause, O Lord, with them that strive with me. Fight against them that fight against me. Take hold of the shield and the buckler, and stand up for mine help. Draw out also the spear and stop the way against them that persecute me. Say unto my soul, I am thy salvation. Let them be confounded and put to shame that seek after my soul. Let them be turned back and brought to confusion that devise my hurt. Let them be as chaff before the wind, and let the angel of the Lord chase them. Let their way be dark and slippery, and let the angel of the Lord persecute them. For without cause have they hid. For me, their net is in a pit. which without cause they have digged for my soul. Let the destruction come upon him at unawares, and let his net that he have hid catch himself. Into that very destruction let him fall. And my soul shall be joyful in the Lord. It shall rejoice in his salvation. All my bones shall say, Lord, who is like unto thee, which delivereth the poor from him that is too strong for him, yea, the poor and the needy from him that spoiled of him. False witnesses did rise up. They laid to my charge things that I knew not. They rewarded me evil for good to the spoiling of my soul. But as for me, when they were sick, my clothing was sackcloth. I humbled my soul with fasting, and my prayer returned into my own bosom. I behaved myself as though he had been my friend or brother. I bowed down heavily, uh, as one that mourned for his mother. But in mine adversity they rejoiced and gathered themselves together. Yea, the object gathered themselves together against me. I knew it not. They did tear me, and ceased not. With hypocritical mockers in feasts, they gnashed upon me with their teeth. Lord, how long wilt thou look on? Rescue my soul from their destruction, my darlings from the lions. And I will give thee thanks in the great congregation, and I will praise thee among much people. Let not them that are my enemies wrongfully rejoice over me, neither let them wink with an eye that hate me without a cause. Hold up a minute. Hate me without a cause. Okay. For they speak not peace, but they devise deceitful matters against them that are quiet in the land. Yea, they open their mouths wide against me and said, Aha, aha, our eyes have seen it. This thou hast seen, O Lord. Keep not silent, O Lord. Be not far from me. Stir up thyself and awake to my judgment, even unto my cause, my God and my Lord. Judge me, O Lord, my God, according to the things unto thy righteousness, and let them not rejoice over me. Let them not say in their hearts, Aha, so would we have it. Let them not say, We have swallowed him up. Let them be ashamed and brought to confusion together that rejoice at my hurt. And let them be clothed with shame and dishonor that magnify themselves against me. Let them shout for joy and be glad that favor my righteous cause. Yea, let them say continuously, Let the Lord be magnified, which have pleasure in the prosperity of his servant. And my tongue shall speak of thy righteousness and of thy praise all the day long. Okay, that was Psalms 35, and it's a prayer for for the rescue from enemies. That was David's prayer. And like I said before, when you understand what these people have done, when they used typology in order to, they concocted JC first at the Council of Nicaea. Then at the same time, they had managed to get our records because we got scattered and we was driven out of Israel, and they managed to get our records around the same time. And so they manufactured the story of JC from our scriptures out of the Old Testament. And one of the examples is right here. David says, I'll start at verse, let me see, I want to do this. Start at verse 6. It says, let their way be dark and slippery, and let the angel of the Lord persecute them, for without cause have they hid. For me, their net, I talked about this before, for me, their net in a pit, which without cause they have digged for my soul. Let destruction come upon him at unawares, and let his net that he have hid catch himself into that very destruction, and let him fall, and my soul shall be joyful. in the Lord, and they shall rejoice in his salvation. Now, this is what I was looking for, verse 10. So remember, they said J.C. Bones was broken and all that, right? Verse 10, all my bones, this is David talking, all my bones shall say, Lord, who is likened unto thee, which delivereth the poor from him that is too strong for him, yea, the poor and the needy from him that spoileth him. So the understanding of that is, when you understand who David is, he's the Messiah, and David is king over Israel, and so all the people, all the cities, and all that is David Bones. To get the proper understanding of that. So when David says in verse 10, all my bones shall say, Lord, who is likened unto thee, which delivereth the poor from him that is too strong for me, yea, poor and the needy from him that spoileth. So we see right there that they took that understanding and twisted it. Any comments on that? Okay, let me get this right quick. Any comments? Let me get this. Okay. Okay, so with that being said, we're going to go to our women's health moment with Michelle. We're going to deal with that.
Yes, sir. Shalom, everyone. Please note that the information provided on this channel is intended for general knowledge only and is not a substitute for professional medical advice or treatment for any medical conditions. You should not use this information to diagnose or treat a health problem or disease without consulting with a qualified healthcare provider. Tonight's discussion is on ways to determine if food is ultra processed. Ultra processed foods can be defined by using additives to make a food product sellable and tasty. Some ultra processed foods, while containing additives, do contain valuable nutrients that can fit into a well balanced diet. Experts recommend not relying on ultra processed foods for the bulk of your diet if possible. By now, you may be familiar with the term ultra processed foods, or those that use additives to make a product sellable or tasty. A diet rich in ultra processed foods has been associated with an increased risk of type 2 diabetes and certain cancers. Here are some ways to determine whether a food is ultra processed. It contains product type. Unfortunately, food manufacturers aren't required to state whether a particular food is ultra processed, but the items itself can offer clues. The first thing to consider is the type of product. If it falls into one of the following categories, there's a good chance it's ultra processed. It can be packaged baked goods like cookies or cakes, protein bars, snacks like flavored chips, packaged bread, sauces and dressings, sodas and sports drinks. It contains ingredients you typically won't use in your kitchen. Another way to tell if a food is ultra processed is by checking whether it contains ingredients not typically used in kitchen cooking. Ultra processed foods typically contain ingredients like lactose, gluten, and high fructose corn syrup. For instance, processed bread will have an ingredient list consisting of familiar ingredients like wheat flour, water, salt, and yeast. Breads that are considered ultra processed will be made with additional unfamiliar ingredients, including emulsifiers or added colors. The ingredient list is long. While a diet heavy with ultra processed foods has been linked to negative health effects, it's important to note that not all ultra processed foods are created equal. Some ultra processed foods are also nutrient dense, meaning they are a source of vitamins, minerals, and other health promoting components with limited added sugar, sodium, and saturated fat. It won't break your diet if you eat an ultra processed granola bar or ice cream sandwich here or there. The main thing is to identify ultra processed foods and not rely on them for the bulk of your diet. I will be reading from Leviticus chapter 11, verses 41 through 45. Verse 41, and every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth shall be an abomination. It shall not be eaten. Whatsoever goeth upon the belly, and whatsoever goeth upon all four, or whatsoever hath more feet among all creeping things that creep upon the earth, them ye shall not eat, for they are an abomination. Verse 43, ye shall not make yourselves abominable with any creeping thing that creepeth, neither shall ye make yourselves unclean with them, that ye should be defiled thereby. For I am the Lord your God. Ye shall therefore sanctify yourselves, and ye shall be holy, for I am holy. Neither shall ye defile yourselves with any manner of creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth. Verse 45, for I am the Lord that bringeth you up out of the land of Egypt to be your God. Ye shall therefore be holy, for I am holy. Tonight's discussion was on ways to determine if food is ultra-processed, and I read from Leviticus chapter 11, verses 41 through 45. Shalom, everyone.
Okay, we appreciate that information. Okay, we're gonna go to our current events. Like I said, like we normally do, I'll play the video, then we'll dissect it, get some feedback. Okay.
We've all thought it. Kanks has dementia. There's no question about it. The rambling, the sundowner hour in the Oval Office where he talks about solving all of these wars and talking to Pete Hegseth, who would have been 21 at the time, the day before 9/11. Nonetheless, you know when Fox News starts trying to claim something, then you know the opposite is true. And here we have Jesse Waters saying that Kanks doesn't have dementia, which tells me 100% he has a dementia diagnosis. Play the clip.
Can't be a dictator with dementia. You can't suspend an election and then forget you suspended an election. Trump didn't need note cards to know who Hillary Clinton was. And the guy has the longest memory of anybody. He remembers every slight, every name, every statistic. The man is a lot of things. He does not have dementia.
100% he has dementia. He doesn't know what habeas corpus is. He thinks it's a person. He thinks Hannibal Lecter is a real person. This 1,000,000%, this confirms it. It has been leaked. There's somebody at the White House to their BFFs, their safe space over at Fox News. And so now they're going on an offensive because I bet his dementia off camera is even worse than what we're seeing. All right. I just have always said, biology is catching up with this guy. You got the McDonald's, 3 meals a day. The Kegels are swollen, the bruises on the hand, the dementia. And if he didn't, as disgusting and unattractive as the orange makeup is, I think it actually makes him look better. I saw somebody post online the other day, like a Photoshop, what he looks like without makeup. It's pretty bad. So he had his annual checkup, and presidents get annual checkups at Walter Reed once a year. He had his annual checkup 5 months ago. And then Kara Lyon-Levitt, which then immediately something's up because they put out this statement, which I found to be rather interesting. They put this out yesterday. On Friday morning, President Trump will visit Walter Reed Medical Center for a planned meeting and remarks with the troops. While there, President Trump will stop by for his routine yearly checkup. He will then return to the White House. President Trump is considering going to the Middle East shortly thereafter. White House Press Secretary, insufferable twat, Caroline Levitt. So, you guys, I just think, why is he going back? I think there's something wrong with him. I think him talking about trying to get into heaven, he's grifting off trying to get into heaven. He just brought up that he was trying to get into heaven a couple of days ago. And it was about a month ago, he's rambling on to, somebody at Fox News. And he said, they say I'm not doing well. I think he has some pretty significant, as a lot of 85, 90-year-old men do, health issues. And we all know he's morbidly obese. And at some point, biology is going to catch up with him. So here he is last night. And right now we're getting reporting that there is going to be a ceasefire in Gaza and Israel. And I am hopefully optimistic and carefully optimistic about this. I don't trust Donald Trump nor Benjamin Netanyahu as far as I can throw them. But my God, I want that bombing in Gaza to stop and for these hostages to be returned. So we'll just wait and kind of monitor that situation. But here he is calling into his safe space, Sean Hannity, last night.
All right, this feels almost illegal to know, but our windows were so old and just desperately needed to be replaced.
Deal with trade, having the ability to use tariffs to help me make a point. The tariffs have brought peace to the world. I'm telling you, they brought peace to the world, and not only here, but with so many other deals. I've made 7 peace deals where countries were in many cases 30, 31 years, 135, 137 years they've been fighting.
All of this is a lie. Every single ounce of everything he's saying to Sean Hannity is a lie. The tariffs have not helped him make any peace deal. The tariffs have wrecked the American economy. And there's people that judge the economy based on the stock market, which is in the throes of a massive AI bubble right now, which of course inevitably will pop. And then there's people who live in the real economy where inflation is through the roof. The credit is completely fully 100% used. There's more houses for sale than there are buyers. And you can go down the list, not to mention what his tariffs have done to the farming industry of the United States of America. He calls into these spaces, and this is going to be one of the autopsies of this authoritarian takeover, is how the media is just so complicit. And Fox News, I mean, what a disgrace. What an absolute disgrace. The amount of decent Americans that sit and watch that every night have been radicalized and radicalized and radicalized to hate. And I'm sure that you guys know people like this, have met people like this, because the more people I know that watch Fox News and the longer they watch it, the worse they become. His balls are in the top desk drawer of the Oval Office. And then when he leaves work, he swings by the Oval and gets his balls. And we all know they're teabagging somebody on Grindr a little bit later. This is an absolute disgrace. This is the complete departure of the Republican Party of old. They will sit there and just lie and be hypocritical to the camera day in and day out. This guy is a fascist who supports an incompetent, demented fascist. This is so emasculating. This is incredibly anti-democratic. It is an absolute disgrace. And I remind you, I started off by saying Moses Mike, big Christian, big Jesus guy, right? Let's look at this image and this tweet from some of the protests in Chicago. It is an image of ICE agents pepper spraying a pastor. And Melanie DiRigio tweets, I feel like this photo of masked armed men pepper spraying a pastor protecting his community is going to be a defining picture of this moment in America for a long time. And then there's another video that has surfaced out of Chicago. Kylie, let me read the tweet first. Aaron Reichen-Melnick says, the video of this incident is just as bad as it sounds. The priest is standing there, not doing anything remotely illegal, and without warning, a masked DHS agent on the roof shoots him in the top of his head with a pepper ball. Kylie, play the clip. There you go. They shot him with a pepper ball, and he was standing there. And this is what I have to say to the MAGA Christians, the white MAGA Christians. Do you not think that at some point these people are going to come for you? If you're sitting in your white suburban house right now in your gated community and you're going to go pick up your kid from school later and they're going to have a play date with somebody who might be of Mexican descent, and you've sent your kid to Sunday school and you go to church and you've taught your kid, you need to protect your neighbor, you need to love thy neighbor, don't be a bully. And let's say that ICE comes while your friend's playing at the park with their friend of Mexican descent, and ICE wants to start questioning and interrogating some child, because they do this all the time on the streets of America. And your little Christian kid starts being a Christian. He starts doing what Jesus told him to do and instructed him to do, which is stand up to the bully, love your neighbor.
Long before.
Okay. Any feedback on that? What you think? Anybody got anything?
Shalom. Yes, far as her speaking on Donald Trump having dementia and just losing it every now and again, he's so wrapped up in himself of wanting to be the first, like we always know, to do something and being praised as a fascist would be. But he also had people telling him what to do or what to say. He was in an interview and someone had to whisper to him to tell him to say something, tell him what to say. So, yeah, he is losing it.
Exactly. Anybody else? Okay, here we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome again to History and Legacy Africa. At this point, do not be surprised if you wake up one morning and hear that war has started in the Sahel. Yes, you heard that right, war. Because everything happening right now is pointing in one direction. The Sahel is preparing for something big, and the West is not sleeping either. Captain Ibrahim Traoré is not just ruling Burkina Faso, he is fighting for its second independence. The kind of fight that does not need permission. The kind of fight that shakes old powers. The Sahel will fight, and they believe they will win.
We must wage this war to be fully independent and to decide on our own development, our own path. So that's what it's about right now.
Earlier this week, during a press meeting in Ouagadougou, Traoré spoke with the kind of fire that makes even his enemies nervous. He said, "The people fighting Burkina Faso and the entire Sahel are not just terrorists, they are imperialists."
So, Mr. President, in your argument, when you talk about a war that is taking on a different form, that is evolving, we still wonder, we always ask ourselves this question: who is attacking Burkina in what way?
It's not just terrorism, it's a war to seize our wealth and prevent us from developing. I once explained this in a speech, I think. I said that if we manage to properly exploit our subsoil, to process what we are extracting here, what we are producing, there will be unemployment over there, on their side.
Never sue the other driver after a car accident. There's a better way to get paid away.
They plunder our wealth in order to survive. So it's a war for independence. We must wage this war to be fully independent and to decide on our own development, our own path.
He said it boldly. They want to seize our wealth, they want to keep us poor, because if Burkina Faso and Africa develop, the entire Western economy will collapse. And truly, he's not lying. Look at the situation today. The West depends on Africa's cheap resources, cheap labor, and cheap markets to survive. If Africa truly rises, many of their countries will fall. But this time, the Sahel has seen through the game. They are not afraid anymore. Traoré says, "This fight is not about politics, it's survival." The West is fighting the Sahel today for its economy. The Sahel is fighting the West for its freedom. He explained how the so-called terrorists in the region are just tools used by powerful nations to destabilize, divide, and control. The more unstable the Sahel is, the more these imperialists can come in the name of help. They steal gold, they take uranium, they grab resources, and when they finish, they say they are giving aid. But Traoré is not fooled. He said, "The problem is not the gunmen in the bush. The real problem sits in Paris and Washington." The Western nations know that if the Sahel succeeds, the rest of Africa will follow, and that is why they are panicking.
We are fighting, and we are constantly adapting to the threat. And we understand where the threat is coming from. It's starting to show. That's the most important thing. And right now, I can assure you that soon we'll be talking about a black albino who will appear, and you'll see. Don't ask me what that means. I think you'll understand later. The war will end, and very soon.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, let us ask, what is the black albino that Traore talked about? Some say it's a mysterious new weapon Russia is building for the Sahel. Others believe it's a secret system that will change the face of modern warfare in Africa. For months now, Russian military engineers have been landing quietly in Niger and Burkina Faso, building massive plants and training soldiers. They are setting up production lines for weapons, armored vehicles, and possibly advanced defense systems, all powered by Niger's uranium. Whatever the black albino is, Traore made it clear. When it arrives, the balance of power will change. That's why the world is watching the Sahel with fear. The United States and France are in shock. They know these new alliances mean the end of their monopoly in Africa. And let's not forget, for years, the West has depended on the hard work of African immigrants. From their farms to their care homes, Africans keep their economies alive. If Africa develops, if Africa builds factories, if Africa starts paying its own people what they deserve, millions of Africans abroad will go home. And that will shake the West beyond imagination. Already begun to blow. And it cannot be stopped by anyone, not even them. Traore, Goita, and Tiani know what is coming. They have seen the signs. That is why, over the past few weeks, the Sahel borders have become some of the most militarized zones in Africa. Soldiers are on high alert, armored vehicles are patrolling every corner, and drones are flying constantly across the skies. The Sahel is preparing, not for fear, but for war. And behind all this tension, one country is smiling quietly: Russia. Since the signing of the nuclear and defense deals with Niger, Russian engineers, intelligence officers, and military trainers have been flooding into the Sahel. Their mission is not only to build weapons factories, but to turn the Sahel into a fortress, a region that no foreign power can ever invade again. Reports suggest that a secret Russian base is already under construction somewhere in the desert between Niger and Mali. From that base, advanced defense systems are being installed, radar networks, anti-aircraft systems, and new drones capable of intercepting long-range missiles. The Sahel is no longer defenseless. France and America are now working hand in hand again for survival. They know if the Sahel succeeds, Africa will finally rise, and their centuries-old dominance will die forever.
Okay, and feedback on that? They say war is coming to Negro land. Anybody got anything on that?
No,
Okay.
sir, I haven't heard on it.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about it, like I said, he was just saying they have no other choice. What's going on with those three countries in the Sahel, if they are able to stand on their feet and support their own self, that's it for the West, because they're getting all their resources from Africa. They had the world food for the longest that, they had it going on, but the whole time, Africa had it going on. Check this out.
The image of a young African president calling out the world's began like any other summit day in Ouagadougou. Delegates from across Africa filled the grand hall of the African Economic and Security Summit, expecting speeches about trade, cooperation, and progress. But what they heard instead would shake the entire continent and send shockwaves far beyond its borders. When President Ibrahim Traore of Burkina Faso rose to speak, the room fell silent.
Check it out.
Cameras flashed. Heads of state leaned forward. No one could have predicted the words that would follow. With calm conviction and eyes steady on the audience, he declared that Africa would begin limiting its cooperation with China. For a moment, silence held the hall like a spell. Then whispers began to ripple through the crowd. Diplomats exchanged uneasy glances. Journalists froze over their keyboards. No African leader in recent memory had spoken so directly. so boldly about Beijing's influence. Traoré's statement was more than policy. It was a declaration of independence. For decades, China had positioned itself as Africa's great partner. Roads, bridges, ports, and railways had carried the label "Made with Chinese Investment." Billions of dollars flowed across borders in the name of friendship. But hidden behind the smiles and handshakes were debts, dependencies, and quiet fears. And now, for the first time, one young leader dared to call it by its name. His words echoed through the summit hall. "If we are not vigilant today, we will become the new colony of China." It was not a speech of anger, but of warning, not of rejection, but of awakening. Traoré spoke for every farmer whose land was taken for foreign mines, for every student who studied under Chinese-funded scholarships, but returned to find no work, for every nation tired of trading sovereignty for loans. That single statement from Ouagadougou would soon travel far beyond Africa. Within hours, global media erupted. Headlines read, "Burkina Faso defies China." Analysts on every continent asked the same question: what pushed Africa to make this turn? As the sun set over the Sahel that evening, a sense of history filled the air. Something had shifted. The age of silent dependency was ending, and the age of African assertion had begun. The speech that shook the world was not shouted in anger. It was delivered in calm conviction. President Ibrahim Traoré stood before the gathered leaders of Africa and outlined, step by step, why the continent could no longer depend on China. His message was not only for Burkina Faso. It was for every nation that had once believed that friendship came without a price. He began with a truth few dared to speak aloud. "The Belt and Road Initiative," he said, "is not a bridge to prosperity. It is a chain of debt." Between 2000 and 2020, Beijing had poured more than $150 billion into Africa through infrastructure loans. But those loans, Traoré warned, came with hidden locks. When countries failed to pay, their ports, roads, and energy grids quietly slipped into foreign hands. He cited the haunting example of Sri Lanka's Hambantota port, leased to China for 99 years after its debts could not be paid. That, Traoré said, must never happen to Africa. His second point was even more direct. Africa's riches were flowing out faster than ever before. 70% of Congo's cobalt, 60% of Zambia's copper, and more than half of Angola's oil were bound for Chinese refineries. Beneath the surface of economic growth, he saw a slow bleeding of sovereignty. "We are exporting the veins of our land," he said, "and importing dependence in return." The hall grew silent. Even those who had signed major Chinese contracts knew he was right. Then came the warning that startled military observers around the world. Since 2017, China had stationed troops in Djibouti, at the very edge of Africa's eastern gateway. Officially, they were there for peacekeeping and logistics. But Traoré asked a simple, unsettling question. When foreign soldiers wear the symbol of peace on African soil, who decides when peace ends? He reminded the audience that control often begins quietly, under the banner of cooperation. Finally, Traoré spoke about the new frontier of control: technology. Huawei and ZTE had wired much of Africa with 4G and 5G networks. Surveillance systems built by Chinese firms were operating in Ethiopia, Zimbabwe, and Uganda. Cameras on street corners, data stored abroad, and silent monitoring of political activity raised a darker question.
Okay, so this video right here is telling us that Tory is breaking away from China. So if you understand understand the dynamics to that, like the video before this, you can expect some serious conflict to break out in that area, in that region. So it says, if you want to watch that video, it's about 30 minutes. It's Chore breaks with China and why Africa's 54 nations are shifting course. Okay. Anybody got any feedback on that?
Shalom, everyone. Yes, I had a feeling when they were so buddy-buddy with them when they started doing the ports and when they came out with that 200 houses in 20 days. Also in certain areas, they were trying to mix their people with the African women, having children by them. It is so much that, and I think their name in the Bible is Gog or Magog. I just know it's both of them, Russia and China. Sir?
God.
Gog? Yes, sir. So by this happening, if this is what is planned out to use China, use Gog to help with the infrastructure for China, and now with Magog, Russia, coming in with the military and everything, they're going to find out what they're going to be doing and cancel them out. Because China, I think you played a video where one of the women that was in Africa, she had the title, but she said that she was pleading with him to stop putting their African Americans out on Africans out on the street in China, leaving them homeless and not helping them. And so now Russia does the same thing, but it's not really out there right now how Russia does the Africans who are over in Moscow and over in Russia. They're not saying anything yet, but everything is slow walk them down to putting them back out into the public eye of they're not the ones.
Okay. Anybody else got any feedback on that? Yeah, I think you're talking about Dr. Arcana. Yeah. So yeah, anybody else got anything? So with that being said, we're gonna open up for anybody with any questions, comments, any dialogue, testimony. Now is the time. No questions? Okay. So let me play this right here. Like I said, every chance I get, I'm showing you how the regathering and us leaving here is already started, and the other one is exposing JC. So every chance I get, I'm definitely going to be doing those two things. So here we go, right here. Like I said, it's not they trying to keep it under hush hush in the news. Okay.
They are choosing to be free, and it's a mental freedom. And so I'm ecstatic. But Africa don't have to be the only choice. We're all over this earth. We are original people, so we can pick and choose whatever country we want to and say we're going home and belong there.
Something extraordinary is happening, quietly, silently, and profoundly. Across America, from Atlanta to Los Angeles, a growing number of African Americans are packing up their lives, selling their homes, and boarding one-way flights to Africa. This isn't a wave of tourism, it's a movement, a silent revolution, as many are calling it, from Kenya to Ghana, Rwanda to the Gambia. Thousands are trading in the so-called American dream for the warmth, freedom, and sense of belonging found in the motherland. Why now? Why Africa? And why in such growing numbers? To understand this modern day reverse migration, one must look deeper than the headlines. For many African Americans, this exodus isn't about running away, it's about returning home. After centuries of displacement, exploitation, and systemic racism, a rising consciousness within the Black diaspora is pulling people back to the ancestral roots. The realization that Africa is not merely a place of poverty and struggle, as decades of Western media portrayals have painted, but a land bursting with opportunity, culture, and healing has sparked something powerful. The first pack caught fire in 2019 when Ghana's Year of Return invited the Global African Family Home, granting citizenship to more than 500 African Americans and descendants of enslaved Africans. Since then, the idea of going home has taken on an unstoppable spiritual momentum. At its core, this movement is deeply personal and deeply Pan-African. For decades, African Americans have battled against racial injustice, police brutality, and social alienation in the United States. Many have grown weary of constantly fighting to prove their worth in a nation that was built on their ancestors' suffering. So they are asking the ultimate question: what if the real American dream was in Africa all along? Beyond the emotional pool, practical factors also play a major role. Africa's economies are booming, with cities like Nairobi, Kigali, and Accra becoming global business hubs. Kenya's tech scene, Ghana's real estate market, Rwanda's safety and order, and the Gambia's serene lifestyle are luring African Americans seeking purpose and peace. According to relocation experts, inquiries from African Americans looking to move to Africa have surged dramatically since 2020. In fact, companies like Adela Relocation Services in Kenya report helping dozens of families each year resettle permanently. Among those leading this wave is Kenneth Harris, a 38-year-old veteran from Atlanta who made the bold move to Nairobi 2 years ago.
And Kenya is my new home.
He said he longed for a life where his identity would not be questioned but celebrated. Now he runs his own business in one of Nairobi's vibrant neighborhoods and says he's found the peace he had been searching for all his life. Many of his friends back home, he revealed, are now seriously considering following in his footsteps. Similarly, Austin Holliman, a Texas-born YouTuber who has lived in multiple countries, says he finally found his true home in Kenya.
If you're in the wrong country, it could become hostile for you, but people might start to show resentment towards Americans in general.
He shared that in the US, he often felt alienated and disconnected, but in Africa, people look like him, accept him, and he feels safe. His words reflect a sentiment shared by countless returnees. Africa is not just a place, it is a feeling. Another striking story is that of Kia Wakesho Simmons, a former U.S. military officer from Charleston, South Carolina, who traces her roots to the Gula Geechee community. After visiting Kenya in 2011, she says she never looked back. Today, she runs a Traverse Culture, a travel and relocation company that has helped more than 300 African Americans make the leap through her work.
My first time to Kenya, to Mombasa, landed in Moi, and never turned back.
Simmons has seen firsthand the transformation that comes when people reconnect with their heritage. She described Kenya as magical, a place where dreams are nurtured rather than doubted. Interesting, her clientele is not just African Americans, but also Africans born abroad who feel the same pull to return. One of her clients, Dua Mutharika, daughter of Malawi's late President Bingu wa Mutharika, echoed this sentiment, saying that returning to Africa was not just relocation. It was spiritual. It is showtime.
Let's get to work.
Equally powerful is the story of Adila Muhammad, a New Jersey native who moved to Kenya shortly after her mother's death. She described feeling a sense of healing and connection that she could not find anywhere else. Her company, Adila Relocation Services, has now helped more than a dozen African American families transition smoothly into Kenyan life. Undeniable. Africa represents not only economic opportunity, but emotional restoration. With its young, ambitious population, expanding economies, and vibrant cultures, the continent offers fertile ground for those looking to invest, those looking to innovate, or simply live with dignity. Many African Americans are finding that here, they are no longer outsiders, but contributors to a new Pan-African renaissance. And as public policy expert Raphael Obonyo notes, this reverse migration is shifting global narratives. America is losing talent and credibility, while Africa gains builders, thinkers, and dreamers.
Okay. Any comments on that? Everybody good? Okay. Yeah. So like I said before, it's happening so fast, and like I said, the media is working, trying to work against us, but it ain't. They can't stop what's happening. It's people that this place is like turning into a hellhole, and a lot of people at the same time, a lot of Black Americans are waking up to who they are. They waking up and starting to look around at their environment. They're not dead men walking, and the results is to take the loss and leave. That's what a lot of them meant, and that's what's happening. And it was prophesied. Okay. With that being said, I want to shine a light on this. I thought it was interesting. This is what happened with. I played the video. I think it's maybe Tuesday, it may have been Saturday evening for our evening Shabbat class, about Tory had turned down, Burkina Faso had turned down a bunch of African Americans for citizenship. Well, this is the story behind it. We'll play it and then we'll chop it up.
Back, and I have many plans to continue to bring awareness to our people that deals with us and our situations here in this life. But most importantly, I want to go ahead and give a shout out to each and every one of you all who is on this grind, who are trying to elevate, trying to transfer, trying to transform your being, your place, your wherever it is, in order for us to get more of a liberty in our life that we live here on this earth. So I just thank each and every one of you all. But tonight, we have a very interesting show that I was apprehensive in doing, because I said I was not going to do any more shows dealing with situations kind of like this. And what I mean by kind of like this is that accusations that maybe there's some misrepresentation, misleading, or scamming that might be going on from our people. But it was something that I thought that I should do, only by the Most High who put it on my heart that I really should do this, in order to give a people a voice to hear what has transpired in their journey of trying to get citizenships in Burkina Faso. Now, I must admit up front, I was totally against, am still totally against, people getting citizenships in Burkina Faso. Remain quiet because I haven't done any deals in over a year, and yet I'm going to give you some of those reasons why here shortly. But some members have joined us today from the ADDI, African Diaspora Development Institute, who I will say is the main main spokesperson, which is Dr. Akana Chiambori, was it Kau? Excuse me for messing up the name. I think it's Quo. But anyway, she has been on a journey since her departure from being the U.S. ambassador, representative of the AU. There was some, let's just say, some other accusations against her when it came for her departure. Many of us believe that her departure is because of her outspoken words against the French, who were being kicked out from Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso, and she basically laid out the truth. Many of us applaud, and many of us came to her defense when it came for the AU or the US removing her in her position. But there was a keynote behind that, as the AU spokesperson had said, which I want to read to you all real quickly with that. Look, why am I doing this? Because I want to get this out the way first and foremost, because of the fact that Dr. Akana, I've met personally, and I have no qualms with her. So I'm gonna put a disclaimer out first. Why am I doing this? But first, I believe she is to my knowing, only meeting her one time personally on an aircraft in Zimbabwe with her and her staff. We had a great meeting. I was supposed to interview her while I was there in Zimbabwe, but due to her schedule, I was unable to do that. That was the last I've spoken to her from her. Sent many other emails trying to do an interview like this on the stream live, but never got any response. But I choose to do this just like Dr. Akana does for herself, and that is bringing exposure to those who may be a detriment to our community. Now, I'm not saying she's a detriment to our community, but I mean, just as well as she will request reparations for our people and justice and freedom, some of the members feel the same and want the same. And I believe that we can come to a table where we can bring a clarity, which I would definitely request for Dr. Akana to please reach out to me at goblack2africa@gmail.com so that she can come and give a clarity and clear up some of these issues that are going on that some of the members are going to share what they have been through. So I say all that because of the fact that I'm a man who is about right. If somebody's wrong, I have the good Lord put in my mouth to speak up against the truth, speak up for truth and speak against the wrong. Here, from what I've heard, from the emails I've received, without taking any bias, prejudices against Dr. Akana, I said, let the people speak. They don't have a platform like I do, so I lend my platform to those people who have been affected by this decision that was made from Burkina Faso by not awarding citizenships, not only to African Americans from the ADI group, that was for anybody. So let's not make it seem as though that Burkina Faso was prejudiced against denying citizenships just to African Americans, but this was across the board, denying citizenships. So I'm going to get into my military background here after I let the people speak, and why I believe this is not the right time for African Americans to get citizenships in Burkina Faso. So Dr. Akana, as I spoke before, is a woman who is a leader. She's a visionary, and I give respect to the woman. But I'll say this right here so that many people understand. Not all spokespeople or speakers are good business people, or have the knowledge of budgeting and financing, or have the know-how to operate a functioning corporation, institution, company, whatever it may be. They may be good at what they do in that place. So we do know that there have been some issues, whether her departure from the AU because of what they say, her mismanagement of or misappropriation of funds, or whether it was her journey of the Wakanda One Village program that never flourished, or her attempts now, that I know that she has tried to do great things. And some things have fallen by the wayside. There are accusations out here, allegedly, putting blame on her for some of these failure adventures that she's going on. I know I've had my journeys of failures, and things just don't go the way that you might expect it, especially in the demographics of a different country. Boy, that's a tough one. But I've hindered and held myself back from going on business journeys with my so-called subscribers and people who have followed me, because I see people's money is very important. People work very hard. And if you don't know that you know that you know what you're trying to lead a people into without a shadow of a doubt, that is going to go through, that is going to be a guarantee, which there in this life ain't no guarantees, but got to be 100% in somewhere that I'm not going to screw up these people's money and things are going to do as I say. I'd rather not delve into those type of business adventures. So without further ado, you all, I have some members here that I'm going to bring in. Some very important people, just like yourselves, who have went on this journey and want to share the impact of this decision that has happened. And I don't know, and I'm quite sure probably they don't know what's probably going on behind the scenes when the Burkina Faso gets word of this and how it's affected many people. I don't know what President Ibrahim Traore, his intentions are in the future. I don't know what Dr. Arikana has to be able to fix this situation. All I have is right now. So without further ado, let me bring in two, and we should have one joining us here and hopefully in the near future here to share their experience and what's going on. But I want to start with Taylor Renee, a young lady that I just met, who I just heard from her. She moved to Burkina Faso, left everything and came to Burkina Faso with the hopes and with the understanding she would get a citizenship. Hard pill to swallow when you make a transition like that and something like this go up in your face. Good evening to you, Taylor. Please introduce yourself, any information that you would like to share with the people that you are at liberty to do. Please do that.
So hello, everybody. My name is, as you can see, Taylor Renee. I have a background in social work, human services, and women and gender studies. When I heard the call that Ibrahim Traore was putting out to call for members of the diaspora to come back home, and also then through ADDI extending through the government, as they were saying, for us to come back home, I heeded the call because I kept asking myself, what side of history did I want to be on? Did I want to continue to stay in the US and work for a government and pay taxes that were being used in the way that we can all see that they're currently being used for? Or did I want to come and fight for what is right, take my ancestors home, and be on the side of history that when I lay my head down and I breathe my last breath, I won't have any regrets? So I came here to Burkina Faso. Like I said, my background is social work, so I donated a majority of everything that I had. I saved the rest of the money that I had, and I moved here. Had my plans of basically how I was going to budget everything, and here and there had some mishaps. But since I've been here, I've been able to see the impact that I've had while I've been here, whether it's helping students get supplies for schools, raising laptops for students, helping people getting their cars fixed for their taxi services, and they're having 14 family members they're taking care of, or helping people, tutoring them in English, tutoring in French, and seeing that impact on people. So I regret nothing as far as coming here. The promises that have been made and how they're not being kept, and how allegedly they were never intended to be kept, that is the issue that I have. I have no issue with the government of Burkina Faso. I have no ill will towards them or Am I really upset? I'm just looking for even more clarity on the situation. And no matter what, at the end of the day, whatever I decide to choose and what aligns with me, what the Most High calls me to do is what I will follow and I will do, because I want to continue to fight the good fight for my people, for my brothers, sisters, aunties, uncles, the children, so that one day we won't have any bumps when we decide to return home. Because somebody has to come here and somebody has to pave the way. Somebody has to take the bumpy ride to make it smooth, so that the next group of people that decide to come can come and it can be a smooth process.
Thank you for that, Taylor. And I'll have some questions here, and we'll get into, this whole idea of getting citizenships and where it kind of ended up at. But before that, let me go ahead and also bring in my brother, Jason. Brian, please, Brian, introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself, and we can get into this this whole sabbatical, excuse me, this whole thing that blew up in a sense for people.
All right, first and foremost, I want to go ahead and give all praises to the Most High. And I want to say thank you, brother, for even allowing us the opportunity to speak. I'm a jack of all trades, 20 years military background in logistics, security, hazardous materials. I'm also in the legal system as far as my position currently right now. I do a little bit of everything. And just like yourself, I do have a strong military background. Yeah, United States Navy and Army. I want to go ahead and say, first of all, when it comes to this situation, it's not so much about, it's not about smearing Dr. Africana, right? It's about bringing transparency. I want to make sure that we clarify some things about situations. I'm a very fundamental person when it comes to looking at how things have been done. And I do my absolute research. And I go and I check and I check behind. And what we come to find out is that, first of all, there was never any government positioning with ADDI, right? This is not an opinion. This is not, there was never a, we are granting ADDI citizenship. There was none. There was nothing on ground. There was no clarification. Now, what people need to understand is I went to Amazon and I purchased a diamond. They told me in order to buy that diamond, I had to join Amazon membership. That's their passport. That's what they sold. And the only way you can get this diamond is through joining Amazon. Then they said, well, we need donations. And because they knew that we cared about what was going on, and we knew that we wanted this diamond so bad, people, not only did they pay registration, not only did they donate books, not only did they donate laptops, clothes, but they did this because a promise was made that you're going to hand me this diamond. You're going to hand me this rare diamond. Mm-hmm. We get within 30 days of getting that rare diamond, tickets have been bought through agencies that they recommended, which some of those places don't get refunds because there's two different insurances that you must purchase that wasn't even addressed. But these are all through recommendations that they had, that they made, that this is what we want y'all to do because we've made this deal and we've done this. So now you wait on this diamond, and then they come back and they say, well, we're not giving you a diamond. We're going to give you a piece of coal, some charcoal. And it's the same as a diamond. And they tell you that. And they say, it's almost the same. And then they belittle you for saying, no, I do recognize that over 10,000 years and a certain amount of applied pressure, the diamond, that it can become a diamond, but that's not what you sold. That's not what you advertised, and that's not what you market. When it comes to ADDI, when it comes to their organization, this is not a one-off. So I did notice that and this is where it's come a problem, is that everyone gives the benefit of the doubt, but how many times do you give the benefit of the doubt? See, throughout the investigations and talking to multiple people, when you bring up Wakanda, every time money has come up missing. Every time money has come up missing, right? So if it looks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, 9 times out of 10, it's a duck. So if you get removed from your position for stealing, we can use fancy words and say misappropriation of funds, right? We can use those words, but it's called stealing. Now, you are 100% right, because 2 things can be the exact same. You can speak against the Union, the French, and you can still be a thief. There is no such thing, and I'm not calling her a thief because I want to make sure I clarify this. But 2 things can be the exact same. You can do good on your right hand and still punch somebody with your left, right? Yeah. We continually try to put the 2 together and say that this is not the case. But here is a fact, there's a pattern. And as people, we must start to look at the pattern and hold everyone accountable, because if they are a detriment to the mission, then they are not our friends, right? We keep talking about refunds, right? But you got people such as Taylor, who's moved, and she's not the only one, who's already relocated. You have people who sold their stuff, who were bringing their 90-year-old their father on ground, right? To find out that there was never an agreement. And when I say never an agreement, she was never authorized to say that this citizenship was going to happen. And this is how I know this for fact, because in her own words, it's no longer now that citizenship was promised. It's now, well, it was talks. Well, it was talks of. And here's the problem. What these people have done is they've prayed, and I say prayed because and it's predatorial. What they realized is that President Abraham is like this glowing figure. And for me, I can understand this because we see him and we see the fight, and we are looking to join that revolution. There are people across the world that want to be a part of what's going on, right? They have the calling, they've heard the ancestors, they've heard the spirits, and they're walking that walk. And what has happened is organizations have learned how to prey on them, because where we have failed is we didn't do our due diligence on our research. See, we trusted the name, we trusted her allure, we trusted that angelic voice, right? But we have failed to remember that the serpent had a sweet voice too. Lucifer, and I am not a Christian, so I don't want anybody to get upset, but Lucifer was a smooth talking individual, right? Just because someone sounds good and they bring this echelon of making you feel good, it doesn't mean they have your best interests. We as people have to understand that. And we as people have to hold them accountable. And we have to ask these tough questions. So again, I'm not calling her a thief. I'm not going to call her, I'm not going to even assume that she doesn't know how to manage funds. What I'm going to say is, here's the tough question. Why is it every time your name is attached to something where you're collecting money from thousands of people, where you're collecting donations, why is it that it always, not only does it always fall through, but you do not have the integrity or the fortitude to address those people as equals and explain to them what went wrong? Why is it that you get have the audacity to talk to people as if they are beneath you when you lied to them? You have misrepresented facts. You have not stood in the quality of being this person that we uphold you to be. What was happening? It was just a wish, right? That was in his messages I sent to you. I made sure because I asked him, I said, hey, you know that we were robbed. You know this. We asking you to come and have a conversation, not being led by ADDI. I asked him specifically. I made sure I did it in French so that there would not be any misunderstanding or mistranslation. But out of lip service, it's been a lot of, well, you know, I dare you accuse us of such things.
Okay, I'm back.
It's not been, so if there's a proclamation, then what you said in the beginning of your show, it holds weight. It says, okay, he signed it, it fell through, and you know what? I'll be the first one to apologize. I will be the first one.
I mean, I'm about to show the facts, show the receipts, produce it for the people. You have the duty to produce to the people. If you say something and you claim there's a proclamation, then just show the people so that it put them at ease. We won't have to go through this. But there again, when you can't produce it, you stand looking guilty. Let me pass it back to Lizzie. What's happening, my sister?
How are you?
All right.
There's a few points I want to add on to my brother Jason and Sister Taylor's synopsis here.
Sure.
Keep this in mind, that all of the persons who were initially going to go on this voyage to get citizenship, this activity was going to continue to go on if ADDI had not been exposed. ADDI got exposed within a small group of the original 1,200, because everyone that was slated to go on this trip, they are not in this particular WhatsApp group. So what happened was one of the members of that group put something in the group on or about September 18th, 19th, basically indicating that there was not going to be any citizenship. That's just to give you a synopsis. There was a long message that the brother had put in there. So of course, initially when everyone saw that, they were getting angry with him because they thought that he was sowing seeds of discord, which in actuality, the brother was not. The brother was spot on. So people began to contact ADDI leadership, the admin team, about what was posted in the WhatsApp group. And then all of a sudden, on September the 29th, there was an emergency meeting happening, okay? So I want to get this clear, how this thing was going to continue to permeate as a lie and as a fraudulent venture in this sense of citizenship, had no one ever came out on or about September the 18th, 19th with that information. Now, how this brother knew, he's not here to speak to how he knew, so we won't get into that, okay, with him posting this particular message. So that's one point. They were going to continue the fraud all the way up until people got into the keynote. And what we have deducted is they would have continued it. And once people got on ground, Go Black, they were going to say, okay, well, the government's not offering citizenship, they're going to give you permanent residency. That's what was going to happen. Because all of a sudden now you have this meeting. Now I want to backtrack just a little bit even before that. Another issue came up after the July 19th Zoom call, okay? That issue was about a $500 registration fee, okay?
Out of nowhere, this $500 registration fee came up.
Yes.
I don't know.
Now, this fee, since March, and everyone had been submitting and they've been sending all these emails, this fee never came up. It never came up until this particular Zoom call, all right? So they brought it up. There was a lot of, there was not a lot of clarity about this $500. It was very ambiguous. So on subsequent calls, they began to hammer this list about what was going to be needed for this. Basically, $150,000 party. People on the Zooms were saying, hey, we don't even want that crap. How about we use this money into the local economy, onto the people? Because one, you all keep saying, well, we need to donate books, laptops, medical supplies, blah, 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 blah. So people wanted that money to go there versus a freaking pool party and wearing berets and then saying, well, we're going to go meet the president of Mali, the president of Niger, etc. This is in all of the Zoom calls. So I wouldn't say it's Chico Black. I'm going to be a little bit long-winded. All of these people who are in the chat right now, because her followers, if you will, they over here, a lot of them are caping for her. And a lot of them are doing this for one simple reason, and it is because she is an elder. And so they want to negate the scam nature of the elder. And you know my policy, pardon my vernacular. I don't give a damn what your age is. If you scamming your own, then you're going to get it. Just like the 9-year-old who's going to be scamming. Just like the 30-year-old who's going to be scamming. So
okay. So we're going to keep an eye on that. But yeah, this is what the bottom of what happened in Burkina Faso. I stumbled up on this, but like I said, I'm gonna keep my eyes on it, hoping that everybody else out there keep an eye on it. And they come across some information, then we can share it, chop it up. Anybody got any feedback on that?
Shalom, Brother Leonard. Shalom, everyone. I was watching this same video before we came online, and did not get a chance to watch it all. But the brother was saying, you know, he's not saying a particular thing about Dr. Arikana, but he was, right? So, okay. So I do follow ADDI. I do get emails from them and, you know, so forth, right? I only attended one Zoom call. That was, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 years ago when I first joined it. I have not attended a Zoom since then, but I do get the emails for those, right? So with checking out the website and kind of, you know, doing my due diligence on what the brother was saying and what other people were saying, right? One of the questions on the site that a lot of people had was saying, how long will it be before they get permanent residency, right? Or to get full citizenship. So the answer was that it normally takes around 10 years. But if you are investing, that time will be shortened, right? So to me, that really stood out right there to me. I don't know about anybody else, but when I read something like that, it's like, we'll give you special treatment, you know, depending on how much you put into Burkina Faso.
For the money.
Right. For the money. That's the way I took it when I read that. And, you know, sometimes we really jump on board with things without doing our research into stuff like this. And on another channel also I was listening to was saying that she was promising things that she did not have control of.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So we got to be careful with things like that. So if she can't show proof of what she's doing with the money when it came to Wakanda and other things, why would you keep sending money and investing in becoming this big time member?
Right.
Yeah, so we just have to be careful. And like I said, it's nothing that man can do for us. When it's time for us to go, the Lord of hosts is going to get us there. We're not going to have to give anybody any money. We're not going to have a passport or any of that. We just have to be patient and wait on the Lord, because his timing is the best timing.
Right. Yeah, that's another way talking about having a good foundation and building the foundation. We was talking how that in how the Old Testament and the laws and statutes were set up, we don't see, we know what no son in the Old Testament, right?
Right. Yes, sir.
So we are, that's the way you can spot that JC he ain't legitimate, because it's already was the Redeemer there. Well, we see the Most High wasn't working with women like that, right?
Right.
We trying to see if the Most High, if this had anything to do, if this tied to the Most High's prophecies that he prophesied in the end days. Well, that's an example. We don't see him in the Old Testament working with women like this. He ain't did it over there. So that's a sign right there. And then, like I said before, the way that how everything is popping off with Abraham Torah. If you got a foundation of how the Torah and how the Most High operate and how he move around, then you can, a lot of things can be avoided by just looking at that. But that Christian take on everything, we get caught up in it, not looking at how the Most High operates and what's been revealed to us as far as our culture. Okay. Anybody else? Okay. So like I said, I'll be dealing with. We're gonna keep an eye on that. If anybody come across something, and share it with the class, whether notify me or you can put it on Messenger or whatever. We just want to try to stay on top of that. See how that unfolds. So what I do now is I'm gonna deal with this for a few minutes on. I got a video that's talking about a hidden race before Adam. I'm just gonna play it and then get the meat out of it. Okay.
We all know the first words of the Bible. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. It is a declaration of absolute power and perfect creation. But the very next verse plunges us into chaos. And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. Have you ever truly stopped to question that? Why would a perfect God create an imperfect, broken world? What if he didn't? What if the story we've been told for centuries is missing its first, most crucial chapter? The silence between those first two verses of Genesis is not empty. It is a chasm of forgotten time, hiding a history so catastrophic that ancient scribes chose to erase it. A history of a world that existed long before Adam ever walked in the Garden of Eden. This is not a fairy tale. This is a truth pieced together from clues left behind in forbidden texts and the most cryptic passages of the prophets. Visions in the book of Jeremiah speak of a ruined world with no man in it. Ancient rabbinic traditions whisper of a pre-Adamic race, beings given dominion over the original earth, whose fall was so great it shattered creation itself. This knowledge changes everything we thought we knew about the fall of man. What you are about to discover is a truth that has been intentionally obscured, a divine secret that redefines Adam not as the first beginning, but as a divine restoration. A second chance for a world already lost to a cosmic war the Bible barely dares to mention. If you seek the answers that lie beyond traditional teachings, stay with us. Like this video and subscribe, because the story of what came before Adam is about to be revealed. The perfect world of Genesis chapter 1, verse 1. The ruined world of Genesis chapter 1, verse 2. Theologians call it the gap theory, a desperate attempt to explain the chasm between perfection and chaos. But what if it isn't a theory? What if it's a scar left behind by an event so monumental that its full story was deliberately removed from the sacred texts? The evidence for this lost chapter has been hiding in plain sight, in verses we read but rarely comprehend. Consider the words God speaks to Job from the whirlwind. In Job chapter 38, God asks, "Where were you when I laid the foundations of the earth, while the morning stars sang together and all the sons of God shouted for joy?" Stop and think about that. Who were these sons of God? Adam had not yet been formed. This was a celestial audience, a heavenly host, witnessing a creation that existed before the Garden of Eden. They were there. They saw it all. But their joy did not last. The prophets Isaiah and Ezekiel give us terrifying glimpses into what happened next. In Isaiah chapter 14, we read of a brilliant being, a morning star, who sought to exalt his throne above the stars of God. In Ezekiel chapter 28, we see a guardian cherub, perfect in beauty, who walked in Eden, the garden of God, upon the holy mountain. This was not Adam's Eden. This was an original celestial paradise, and its anointed protector fell because of pride. This was not merely a spiritual fall. It was a cosmic war, and the original earth was its battlefield. The rebellion of this mighty being and his followers is what plunged creation into ruin, turning it into the dark, watery chaos we find in Genesis chapter 1, verse 2. The story was not rewritten, it was broken. The history of this first earth, its magnificent ruler, and his cataclysmic fall was deemed too terrible, too complex for the simple narrative of Adam's sin. It was a truth hidden to protect us. Until now. The evidence of this lost history was not misplaced by time. It was removed. For centuries, we have trusted that the books of our Bible are the complete and final Word of God. But the truth is more complex. Ancient councils and scribes made difficult choices, deciding which texts would form the canon and which would be cast aside, labeled as apocrypha or hidden writings. The question you must ask yourself is, why? What truth was so dangerous that it had to be buried? The answer lies in traditions that predate the Christian church itself. Ancient rabbinic commentaries, like the Midrash, whisper of a profound secret, that God created and destroyed several worlds before he created ours. This was not a failure of God, but a testament to his divine patience. These were not physical planets, but ages, epics ruled by spiritual principles and beings that ultimately fell into chaos. This knowledge was guarded, deemed too complex for a simple understanding of sin and redemption. It was easier to start the story with Adam. Simpler, cleaner, but it was not the whole story. These whispers are given form in texts like the Book of Jubilees, sometimes called the Lesser Genesis. This ancient work was considered sacred by many early Jewish and Christian communities. It presents a history of creation, told from the perspective of an angel, revealing a timeline that begins long before the 7 days of Genesis. It speaks of classes of angels and celestial beings who existed in the first creation, whose duties and subsequent failures are directly tied to the corruption of the physical world. This wasn't just a spiritual fall in heaven. It was an event that left creation itself broken, void, and covered in a deep, dark water. You see, these texts do not contradict Genesis, they complete it. They provide the missing context for why a perfect God would begin his work in Genesis chapter 1, verse 2 by hovering over a world already in ruins. It wasn't the beginning of the story, it was the beginning of a great restoration. The deliberate exclusion of these accounts protected a simpler narrative, but it cost us the true scale of God's redemptive plan. If the story of Adam is not about the first sin, but about the first act of divine recovery, then what does that reveal about the true nature of the evil he was meant to overcome? So what did this lost world look like? Before the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters, there was a world teeming with life, but not as we know it. This was the original earth, the jewel of God's first creation. And it was ruled by beings of immense power and wisdom, the celestial sons of God, who shouted for joy at its foundation. These were not men of flesh and blood. They were governors of a spiritual kingdom made manifest, tasked with maintaining a perfect harmony between the heavens and the earth. This was the age of the primordial watchers, a time when the veil between realms was thin and God's glory shone directly upon his creation. But this perfect order was not to last. The rebellion that began in the heart of the morning star, the anointed cherub, did not remain a heavenly affair. It spilled over into the physical realm, His pride became a contagion, a spiritual plague that infected the very dominion he was meant to protect. This was the First Great War, a spiritual conflict so violent that its shockwaves tore through the fabric of reality. The harmony was shattered. The perfect frequencies of creation were thrown into a deafening chaos. This was not a simple fall from grace. It was an act of cosmic treason that aimed to uncreate what God had made perfect. The result of this war is described with chilling precision in Genesis chapter 1, verse 2. The earth became without form and void. This was not its original state. This was the aftermath of a cataclysm. The deep, dark waters that covered everything were not primordial soup. They were the remnants of a divine judgment, a cosmic flood meant to cleanse the wreckage of that first corrupted world. The prophet Jeremiah saw a vision of this exact scene, a land with no man, darkened heavens and trembling mountains. He was not seeing the future. He was being shown a vision of the forgotten past, the true state of the world, before the great restoration began. The omission of this history changes everything we thought we knew. It means that the 7 days of creation were not an act of making something from nothing, but an act of divine reclamation. God was not starting with a blank canvas. He was restoring a battlefield. It also means that the serpent in the garden was not a new threat. He was the defeated ruler of the previous world order, an ancient enemy already present when Adam took his first breath. Adam was placed in Eden, not as the first king, but as the first soldier in a war that had been raging for ages. Hiding this truth protected a simpler narrative of sin, but it cost us the true, breathtaking scale of God's redemptive power. For centuries, the story has been simple. Adam was the first man. Eden was a perfect paradise. His sin was the first sin, the one that broke the world. It is a powerful, linear narrative of creation, fall, and redemption. But this version, the one taught in every Sunday school, stands in stark contrast to the echoes of a much older, far more complex history. The story we've uncovered is not about a world broken by a single act of disobedience. It is the story of a world already in ruins and a man created to be its first restorer. So why was this history concealed? Why would the ancient fathers of the faith choose to remove the first chapter of creation? The answer is rooted in a desire to protect. They feared that a story of a pre-Adamic world, of fallen celestial princes and a cosmic war, would create more questions than it answered. It could introduce doubt. If God's first creation with its powerful angelic rulers could fall so catastrophically, what hope did frail humanity have? For the sake of a clear and simple gospel, that sin entered through one man, Adam, and salvation comes through one man, Christ, the deeper, more chaotic prequel was intentionally set aside. It was a truth deemed too heavy for the common believer to carry. This was not a passive forgetting, it was an active suppression. As early church councils gathered to debate which texts would form the Holy Scripture we know today, they made deliberate choices. Books like the Book of Jubilees and the Book of Enoch, which detailed the histories of these earlier ages and the failures of angelic beings, were systematically marginalized. They were labeled Apocrypha, the hidden away texts. The question we must ask is, were they hidden because they were false, or because the truth they contained was too staggering, too disruptive to the simple narrative needed to build a global faith? By removing this context, the story of Adam was fundamentally changed. He was no longer a restorer stepping onto a battlefield. He became a fragile figure who brought ruin to a perfect world. This simplified the problem of evil, but at a great cost. It robbed us of the true scale of God's redemptive plan, which did not begin in a garden, but in the ruins of a world that had already been lost. Hiding this truth didn't protect God's sovereignty. It limited our understanding of its breathtaking scope. It transformed a story of cosmic restoration into a simple tale of human failure. It is God's deliberate, strategic answer to a rebellion that shook the foundations of the heavens. We were created for the conflict, designed to carry the light of God into the lingering darkness. Why was this knowledge suppressed? Because it complicates the simple narrative of sin and salvation. But for those who have always felt that the story was deeper, this truth does not destroy faith. It forges it in fire. It explains the pervasive ancient nature of evil in a way that Adam's single transgression cannot. It provides the missing context for the spiritual warfare described by the apostles.
Okay. So that was the hidden race before Adam, the beings that the Bible erased from Genesis. Okay. Anybody got any comments on that, or what you think?
Shalom. When he was saying it, I saw that in my head. It's when he said he separated the waters. So there was something there prior to. So yes, he didn't say he's going to make water, make the sun, or make the moon. He just said he was going to separate the darkness from the light. So it was already there.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, so like I said, the name of that is The Hidden Race Before Adam. So if you want to watch it, it's like 25 minutes. So you can check that out. But so with that being said, we're going to read pick a scripture, and then we'll break that scripture down, and then we'll close out. Somebody got a scripture they want to share with us, or I need to get one, or somebody got a scripture.
Shalom, Brother Leonard. Yes, sir. I'll read Proverbs chapter 3.
Okay.
Verse 5 and 6. Proverbs chapter 3, verse 5 says, Trust in the Lord with all thine heart, and lean not unto thine own understanding. Verse 6, In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy paths. That was Proverbs chapter 3, verse 5 and 6.
Okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense right there. I was go back to like I was saying I was on the TikTok the other night, and they are definitely not going by that. They lean into their own understanding, which is chaos. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, that was a good scripture. So with that being said, if nobody else have anything, we'll close out right there. We got our men's advanced Bible study tomorrow night, 7 to 9 Central Time. The women can come in through YouTube. And so till then, I'll see everybody. Shalom. Shalom and another shalom.
Shalom, everyone.
Shalom.
Shalom.
I highly recommend that you get this book and you read it, because it's a must that you understand who the God head is in the order that's in the Old Testament and Tanakh, because it's not the same as in the New Testament. And when you read this and you get an understanding, then the scriptures open up, and then you begin to understand. So I highly recommend that you get this book. It's the Elohim of Israel, and it's a breakdown on the word Elohim and who the God of Israel is, and the Godhead.